People X Participation. Change that adds up.
Hello and welcome back to People X Participation, the podcast that celebrates youth engagement done right. I'm Em, your host, and today's episode is a special one, our final episode of the year. We're winding down 2025 by reflecting on the amazing things that have happened, the challenges we've faced, and what we're looking forward to in 2026. I'm joined by three brilliant guests here, one of our incredible team members and two amazing young people who have been part of our Participation People family this year. Before we jump in, I'd love for each of my guests to introduce themselves, tell us about your name, what you do, and one fun or crazy thing that happened to you this year. Jess, why don't you start?
Hi, my name is Jessica, and my role at Participation People is Youth Voice and Influence Officer. So, a bit about what that means. I just work directly with young people, sometimes adults, and facilitate sessions with them, and basically help businesses improve their services. One thing from the year, I would say trying to fish out fake and real young people when we're trying to recruit. That has been a crazy thing. Yeah, it's just meant that we've upped our game, just making sure that we're engaging the right people.
Hi everyone, I'm Yaz and I'm a young consultant here at Participation People. So you're probably wondering, what is a young consultant and what does a young consultant do? So basically there's a huge team of us as young consultants and we get to help facilitate workshops, keynotes and different events and things like that to give our say as young people, because we hold a fresh perspective as young people ourselves. As much as Jessica and the whole team have an amazing wide range of experience, they're not currently young people, so working closely with the team is what we do and one of the things we do best, and it's an incredible opportunity to be able to be part of that. One fun thing that's happened this year, I'm going to give two. I'm going to give like a youth work one and I'm going to give a personal one. So I went on a ski trip earlier this year and that was so fun. Honestly, it's been the highlight of my personal life and I loved it and I cannot wait to be back on the snow, hopefully next year. And then one fun thing that's happened within youth work, there's been too many memories to count and too many things I've been up to. But honestly, I think getting to go up to Parliament and speaking in Parliament this year was an incredible opportunity, and being able to kind of see what goes on in Parliament as part of that was an amazing opportunity.
I'll jump right in. I am Sami. I'm one of the young consultants here at Participation People. I won't get into what that means because Yaz has already done a brilliant job, but also I hold quite a few hats in my other work roles. I'm a portfolio non-exec. I'm also a consultant with my own company. And then I'm also a researcher and a uni student. In terms of highlights this year, I think I finally got refugee status this year after 12 years in being an asylum seeker in the UK. So that was a bit of an unusual one where I was like, oh, I was not expecting this, but it has truly transformed how I live, where I now have access to rights and I'm able to vote and do things that I was not able to do for most of my life. I'll also be cheeky and add another one like Yaz did, but this morning, for the first time ever, I saw myself on a reference list being like Gitchki Atal, and I was like, okay, this is very weird, but I've been super giddy since then because of that.
Thank you so much, the three of you, for being here. Now that we've introduced our guests, let's dive in. Jess, you've had quite a year at Participation People. Can you tell us a bit about some of the impact you've seen? What have been your biggest highlights, either from projects or from working with our amazing young people?
Yeah, so at Participation People, yeah, we've done a lot this year. The biggest highlights have included partnering with Vodafone to create a global youth safety charter, setting up a new learning module for Libraries Rising, previously called ASCORE, to improve basically how library staff work with young people. We've also done lots of work with Copperfield, Magna Housing, partnered with Global Child Forum. I think my personal favorite has been working with the Wiltshire and Swindon Youth Commission. And so basically working with young people that are passionate about crime and vulnerability, and policing. And yeah, it's just been excellent just seeing how the Police and Crime Commissioner, they're really trying to make sure that they're including young people's voices in their practice. Yeah, it's just been incredible.
Thank you so much, Jess. Yeah, that project really has been amazing. And how you've taken the reins of that and really made the young people feel at home is just inspiring. So I want to give a little round of applause for all your hard work doing all of that, because you've made that magic happen with the young people. But now let's turn to our young people now. What have been your highlights from 2025? Maybe one from your time with us at PP, and then a personal one. Because I know you two are always up to something, not just PP related stuff. So I'm sure you'll have plenty to share. So Yaz, why don't we start with you?
Thanks, Em. I have been doing so much this year, and I think it's so hard to pick some favourites and those kind of highlights from the year. And it's really good to reflect on the year as well and see what I've been up to and how I've grown from January. PP wise, I'm going to start with. I have loved everything I've done with PP. I must say, I've done a lot more online than I have in person this year. And one of my highlights actually from the year is the in person event I did over in Birmingham, and that was in October, and it was an amazing event, and that was working with the company called Orlo, and it was Orlo's big social. So that was an amazing event. I actually got to facilitate with Antonia, our CEO, and also another young consultant, Megan, and that was an incredible event. And honestly, going to help out at those events, facilitating and doing all those sorts of things has been a real highlight for my year. One thing that I'm super proud of this year, actually, that I've done outside of PP is I actually became deputy head girl at my school, which is something that I really wanted to do ever since I joined in year 7. And I'm now in year 13 and on a student senior team and getting to make a difference within the senior prefects that we get to run and all the other events we get to do. So that's definitely been a super proud moment for me.
I suppose for me, it was also going to be a panel, specifically the CYP Now panel that I was part of earlier this year for their conferences. And I think what made me feel really proud was it wasn't just me in that space, it was me and a group of other young people telling people out there who are very passionate about supporting us exactly what we think, what we believe, and what we think the sector needs to do better. And that directly, I think, embodied what PP tries to do. Is it's not about supporting young people, it's about young people being there to lead the change and trying to represent what we think within these spaces. And I suppose one that matches very closely with that is a personal one that I've been on the advisory board for the National Youth Strategy with Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and that's directly been shaping what does the National Youth Strategy look like and how can we make sure it's embodying the voices of children and young people of not just today but also tomorrow. It's not just about us but also the other young people that come after us to make sure we are creating a world that is fit for them.
Wow, so beautifully put. Thank you so much, Sammy. And thank you, Yaz, as well for sharing. I loved Orlo. It was so much fun being there with you. Like the energy and the rock, paper, scissors, just such a great day. That is honestly so incredible what you two have achieved this year. And I'm sure that all of that was just the tip, or the very, very tip of the iceberg. But of course, no year is perfect. With lots of highlights comes some challenges. So, what's one challenge that you faced this year? Jess, you mentioned something about fake sign-ups and adults pretending to be young people. Tell us about that.
Obviously, when you put out, I guess, recruitment, or you're trying to do recruitment and you put out like a flyer or you're sending emails, you expect that the demographic that you're after is the ones that's going to respond. But obviously, you can only guarantee that when you're doing it in person, like giving a flyer directly to a young person. But we've, as a team, noticed a certain few names pop up that maybe have entered sessions, and we've noticed that maybe their voice sounds a bit not young person like, and they've just repeatedly shown up in different sessions, which has been quite challenging because obviously we want, I guess, the output of the sessions to actually come from young people's voices. And we don't want those spaces to be given away to adults, because the whole point of our sessions is to find out what young people have to say. So yeah, that's been a challenge, but thanks to you, we've actually come up with a solution to that, which hopefully moving forward helps us just make sure we're hitting the right demographic for these sessions.
Thank you, Jess. I think we've all come together as a team, right? We've all put our heads together to think of the best solution for not just us, for the young people. But if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, oh, that sounds intriguing, how have you fixed that? We're going to go into a little bit of that later on, and keep your eyes peeled. We'll be doing an announcement soon with more details. What about a challenge for you, Yaz?
I think all years are full of challenges, and I think especially this year. But one that comes to mind is honestly understanding your capacity as a young person, as a young consultant at Participation People, and taking on different roles in many other organisations, youth orientated ones, and perhaps being a youth volunteer or a youth advisor to different organisations. I think it's really important to note your capacity, and especially as an A-level student, I was in year 12 earlier this year, and from September I have been a year 13 student. So at the moment it's quite hard to balance my A-level studies alongside everything else that I'm doing. So I think that's definitely been a challenge. I definitely haven't quite learned from it yet, and I'm still taking on bits and bobs as and where I can, because I enjoy all the youth social action that I do and the youth advocacy and things like that. And making sure that I stand up for young people's voices is super important to me. So it's finding that balance. And I think my biggest piece of advice to any young person who wants to get involved is get your head stuck in there, but don't be afraid to say no if the opportunity's not right for you or you don't have a capacity for it, because those opportunities, if they're right for you and are something that you need to do at some point in your life, it will come back to you. And I think it's really important to note that.
Thank you so much, Yaz. And what about you, Sami?
I suppose one of the reasons I first got into social action was specifically around my mental health and how those experiences led me to becoming a campaigner and thinking about mental health. But this year, I think I particularly struggled with my mental health because of social action relating to being an asylum seeker. Because earlier this year, I was interviewed by Sky on one occasion and ITV on another occasion, specifically talking about asylum seekers and migrants, because it's been a very hot debate, especially when it comes to the political climate and all of that. And one of the comebacks to that was I wasn't expecting to actually get hate because of that. But then you come across these Reddit threads, which is just a lot of strangers talking about your life and talking about so much about you. And you're like, oh, wait, how on earth did you actually get access to this sort of information? Or alongside that, there was a point where when I did the Sky interview, it was a repost by a local news office, I suppose, in the Northeast, and it was just a bunch of far right haters talking about why asylum seekers should not be here or refugees should not be here. And I think I took that quite personally, and that meant that I was really struggling with my mental health for quite a good chunk of time, and I was also starting to be quite paranoid. Where at one point I was making sure I was going to work or to social action things using one tram stop and then coming back home using a completely different route just in case someone was there to get me. But I think just to caveat that as well, I think there was the awareness within that I need to look after my own mental health and be conscious that I need to keep myself space within doing my social action, because if I can't do that, then I can't be there to challenge or advocate or do any of the things that I want to be doing, just because at the end of the day, I should prioritize myself and put myself out there only to a level or capacity that I feel comfortable doing. And that's, I suppose, been a challenge, but it's also been enormous learning just to make sure that I'm not putting myself in harm's way.
That's really scary. I can't even begin to imagine all the turmoil of emotions you've had having to go through that. But one thing I will say is looking at you now and hearing your words, it's absolutely incredible how you've spun something so horrific, really, and scary into a learning opportunity and, you know, hope moving forwards, which really inspiring. Thank you, Sami. And so my next question is all about looking at these challenges and what could we do now that we know, now that we're looking back in hindsight. If we had a time machine, what would we do if we could go back? And I'll start with you, Sami. Going on to what you said, is that looking back, having more awareness of these things?
Part of it, but I would also just echo what Yas said earlier about knowing your own limits, because no one knows what your limits are better than yourself. I was actually having a conversation with Antonia, and she told me to ignore what everyone else is saying, and she's like, "You're the only person who knows your limits. Listen to yourself." And within that space, I think we get so passionate about the things that we're trying to change, and we get so passionate about our activism and our social action and why we are actually in this space and trying to make the world a better place. But we need to look after ourselves. And sometimes that means accelerating and trying to do more than we thought we were capable of just because we know it's good for us. Or sometimes it means letting go and taking a backseat on some things. And within that, I think one of the big things has been letting go, especially when you get attached of things that are really close to you. So, for example, I recently stepped back from being co-chair of the I Will movement, and that was a very big step for me because I was like, oh, I'm really attached to this space, I'm really attached to this movement, but it came with the acknowledgement that I'm not learning here much anymore. I understand that another young person will be able to give this role a lot more energy than I can just because of everything that was going on in my life. And that's okay. It does not mean that I'm letting anyone down. It doesn't mean I'm letting myself down. It just means chapter has changed and it's time to move on. So it's just about knowing your own limits, but also not being afraid of moving on because that space fills up with something that is more meant for you in that given time.
Honestly, so beautiful and touching. Thank you. And the whole time you were talking, Yaz was nodding her head in agreement. So, Yaz, why don't you share what you were thinking?
Honestly, I'd love to echo everything you've just said there, Sammy, and I think it's really important to understand that and for all young people to know themselves in that way, to know their limit and not necessarily listening to other people, but listening to themselves and knowing what they can do and what they can't do. And I actually really resonated with the fact you were talking about stepping down as the co-chair of the I Will movement, which I know you've done an incredible job as co-chair of that. So big congratulations. And I think stepping down from a role is super hard. And it's been a challenge that I've definitely faced this year, especially with trying to limit my commitments, especially going into year 13. And I found it hard because I love doing all the youth social action and stuff like that I do. And I do give it my all. I'm very passionate about it. But sometimes it's detaching yourself from something that you've been part of for a long time. For me, my local youth forum is still something that I still go to, but I've kind of almost detached myself a bit from it, that I need to go to every single event. I'm trying to go to the events and the sessions that actually bring me benefit and sessions that I know I can bring benefit to, rather than just being that person who turns up at every session. As much as that's wonderful and I enjoy it every time, sometimes the value needs to be both for me and for the people who are there as well. So it's just kind of listening to what you think might bring you the most value and sometimes saying no in some cases, like I mentioned earlier, kind of knowing your limits and knowing that opportunities aren't ever going to go away. Yes, the same opportunity may not come across, but something similar or maybe even better might actually come up. So for me, that's what I'm looking ahead to kind of think about life after A levels, really.
Stunning. Thank you, Yaz. And how about you, Jess? What's one solution that you would bring to the table of your challenge?
So I know I mentioned before, one of the challenges was people pretending to be young people. But actually another challenge, it's not a big challenge, but something I noticed is a lot of our young consultants obviously are growing older. So we're missing like younger youth voice. So one solution has been to recruit for younger young consultants, and then make sure that we put training in place to make sure that these, not just our existing young consultants, but these new people that we're going to onboard, they have the training that they need to be able to be confident when they're going for these different opportunities that PP has to offer.
Yes, I guess we're getting older.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jess. And that actually feeds in perfectly onto my next question, which was about things to look forward to in 2026. And from what it sounds like, we've got some more young consultants, some new young consultants to look forward to in 2026, which is really, really exciting. But what else is coming from PP next year?
Yeah, so not only are, I guess, young consultants, they're gonna like double in size. We also have work with the National Lottery coming up, which is really exciting. And then we also have, well, we're moving into year two next year of the Wiltshire and Swindon Youth Commission. And also we'll start to, I guess, see the final products and like the content that the young people have been creating for the Dorset Wildlife Trust and the Dorset Local Nature Partnerships project. We also have a exciting opportunity where some of the team could be going to Barcelona for Mobile World Capital. Yeah, am I missing anything?
Probably, because there's always too much. We'd be
Yeah,
here all day
there's a lot.
otherwise.
There's literally so much to look forward to. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting year next year.
Definitely. So make sure if you're not following us, make sure that you are, to keep your eyes peeled on first-hand updates on what we are up to, because every week we are up to and showcasing something new. But thank you so much for that, Jess. Some exciting, exciting things on the horizon. But what about you two? What have you got to look forward to next year? Why don't we start with you, Yaz?
Thanks, Em. So for the first 6 months of the year, I think it's going to be purely focused on A levels. I will be sitting 9 exams, which seems scary, but I did sit 19 exams in my GCSE year. So I can see giving me some crazy looks. Yes, there's a lot of exams, and it's something that's super hard and something I do need to focus on. So for the first kind of half of the year, I will be focusing on them, doing some youth social action, some PP work, and some other external work as and where I can. But it will be prioritizing my schoolwork. And then after that, I'm planning to actually take a gap year. So as well as my long summer, I'll be having a whole extra year. So hopefully I'll be doing lots of youth social action. I do want to do some traveling as well and visit different countries, some volunteering. So at the moment, it's kind of a bit of a blur, but I think that's actually okay. Sometimes it's scary, and I think a lot of young people who may be listening to this, or even adults actually, may not know what they'll be doing in a year's time or 5 years' time. And I think that's honestly okay because it's so open to me at the moment, and I have so many different opportunities I know I can do. There is one big project I have gotten involved with. So I actually became a girl guiding advocate a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be doing quite a lot of work with them in the kind of first half of the year as well as the second half of the year. I've got a residential with them and doing some work with them just before my A levels, not in the lead up, but a couple of months before. So that'd be super exciting and something to look forward to. And then hopefully attending some different party conferences. So I'm quite interested in politics, so attending them with the Girl Guiding and also with the Fair Education Alliance. So fingers crossed I get to kind of see some politics in action, as that's something I'd love to go into. So that's kind of my plans. It's a bit of a blur, but I have some things I do want to do.
For me, I have no idea what I'm doing in the next year. I think I can barely keep up with next month, let alone next year. So I think one of my key goals always is just to keep learning, regardless of what I'm doing. I need to make sure I'm learning and stretching myself, just because I think that's the space I thrive most. I cannot see myself having a single hat ever, so I am probably going to keep doing a lot of different things in different capacities. But within that, I think an important thing, and we touched upon this earlier, is consolidating what I am already doing and seeing where I'm having the most impact. Because I feel like currently how systems function, there's often times where you're in spaces where you're just there and you're not necessarily contributing much, or you're not necessarily having the impact, even though it feels like it's important work. I think I really want to curate my space and how I'm working and my systems around me, just to make sure I'm focusing on areas where I can directly impact or influence, or where I can create systems that can meaningfully change how things work and really maximize that to the best I can. But also alongside that, I think me being in university, finally, after so long, it's this space where I'm surrounded by so much going on. There's so many amazing and brilliant minds around me, and just leeching onto them in the most nice way possible and just learning as much as I can, because there's not many points in your life where you can do this much and take this much risk without having a safety net to fall back on. So in my head, this is my time to make as much use as I can of that safety net, just so I am ready that once I graduate, I can do bigger things, and hopefully, God knows, we'll see.
That's so exciting from the both of you. The idea that even though you might not know exactly what 2026 has in store, it's full of so much potential, hope, growth, learning, adventure, all of it. And I'm so, so excited to see what actually comes in store for you both. I'm sure all of that and then more. And definitely, at least, Sammy needs a hat rack, it sounds like, a metaphorical one for all of his hats.
I did once say to someone offered me a board rule once, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I don't have capacity. I already have too many hats. And they were like, oh, you've got too many hats. Just get a bigger closet. And I was like, I wish that worked in reality, but it doesn't.
I love that. Oh, stretch for capacity, get a bigger closet. Yeah, easy. But we're almost coming to an end. But before we do, I want to quickly chat about our hopes. We've talked about what's definitely on the horizon or what might be on the horizon for 2026, but it will be a lot more than that. So, starting with you, Jess, what's one thing you hope 2026 will bring for you or for PP more generally?
Personally, I hope 2026 just grows me. Um, been juggling a few things and got some exciting things to look forward to in 2026. And I'm just hoping that everything is gonna mean a lot of change, but I'm hoping that change, yeah, just helps me grow. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's so beautiful. Change. I just hope for change and good change. And it's like, yes. And I know that all of that's coming to you and more. I won't spoil the beans on what exciting things you have on this podcast. But 2026 is definitely going to be Jess's year. So what about for our young people? Yaz, what's one thing you hope will come out for next year for you or for your generation as a whole?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I feel like I kind of covered a few of my personal hopes with hoping to go to a couple of different events like party conferences and things like that. And I do just hope there is lots of opportunities kind of around the time after I finish my A level so that I can get involved in them and also just being able to work towards kind of where I want to go in the future. I kind of hope that that will be the case and fingers crossed. I think for young people in general, I do hope a lot of young people kind of start to gain the confidence to get involved in all different areas. So, especially political action. I think with the Votes at 16 coming in and things like that, I really do hope a lot of young people choose to become more educated around policies and politics in their local area, nationally as well. And I think that's really important. So, I do hope young people choose to get involved as and where they can and where the opportunities are presented to them. And one personal hope, I do hope that I get some good A level results, and I'm going to be working so hard on them. And I also hope I get to go and do some traveling afterwards. I'd love to do a ski season next year. That's one of my big hopes, or maybe a Lapland season, something like that. Somewhere in the snow where I can do some winter sports is my big hope for my first big traveling event. But yes, hopefully just lots of good things and lots of opportunities to appear for myself, Sammy, and all the other young people involved in PP and beyond.
I'm disappointed I'm the one we're ending on because mine was a tiny bit glim. Because I think that as a society, we are living in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think a lot of young people I've spoken to struggle to be hopeful. And it's very hard to be hopeful without feeling like you're trying to be toxic positive all the time. So, one of my hopes is I hope that we can be more hopeful, but we have a reason to be hopeful within this next year. And I suppose on a personal side, I hope that I can continue getting 8 hours of sleep per night, though that might be a tiny bit of a challenge.
Isn't it for all of us? Honestly, sometimes getting the right amount of sleep, however important it may be, is so difficult, especially with all of our commitments.
So we're hoping for opportunities for young people. We're hoping for traveling. We're hoping for hope, which I absolutely adore that, Sammy. I think because you said it might be a bit of a grim ending, but I'm like, not necessarily because I think it's powerful, right? That challenge to be like, you know what? This is a call to action for all of us. If we can somehow reclaim a little bit of hope and carry that forwards. And I think that's such a powerful way to wrap this up. And if you are listening and you do have a little bit of hope, try and look to a young person in your life and try and share some of that hope with them. Because, like Sammy says, things are really tough at the moment, and then some. And for young people, especially growing up in this time of turmoil, it's really scary. It's really dark. So thank you so much for saying that, Sammy, and both of you for being here, for your time. And it honestly has been amazing. And I hope everyone listening has enjoyed this conversation. So before we go, does anyone have any final thoughts or shout outs, maybe to the PP team, young people, or anyone who made your year what it was?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out, well, two actually, to my PP colleagues, how much I've enjoyed doing collab sessions with everyone. Yeah, we really do create incredible work when we put our brains together. And the second shout out is to my young consultants. who just continually show adults why it's so important to incorporate youth voice into their practice. And yeah, just being confident to, I guess, share their story and personal experiences too.
To everyone listening, our clients, young people, followers, and everyone who supported us throughout 2025, we appreciate you all to the universe ends and back. We can't wait to see what 2026 brings, but until then, take care, have a brilliant holiday season, and we'll see you all in the new year. Bye!
See you later.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.